Welcome to the evolving UniSC UDL tapestry. This is the story of initiatives that have, both through individual effort and organisational design, woven threads of universal design for learning into the fabric of learning and teaching at UniSC over the past decade. We are Anita Jones and Amy Sjoberg, and we work within the Centre for the Support and Advancement of Learning and Teaching, CSALT, at UniSC. Our 5 campuses spread across 250 kilometres of Butchulla and Gubbi Gubbi country in southeast Queensland. The format of this presentation is a recorded video story followed by a live question and answer session. We're interested not only in your questions, but in your UDL story and organisational maturation towards inclusive design. Our story starts a decade ago and traces the evolution of universal design for learning at UniSC through organisation-wide initiatives. We'd like to point out that UniSC has achieved 5-star ratings for teaching quality for 13 successive years. That's evidence that our teaching staff have provided engaging, learner-centred experiences for more than a decade, sustaining a high level of student satisfaction. So in telling this story from the perspective of our support roles, we also want to recognise the quiet practice of individuals and teaching teams who are simply just getting on with it, embedding inclusive design into curriculum without any fanfare. The initiatives we present today have and will continue to support individual and organisation-wide universal design for learning and build on our communities of practice. We'll conclude our story with our key learnings and next steps as guided by a UDL maturity rubric. We'll then invite you in question time to use the same rubric to determine what your next steps might be.
This diagram shows a timeline of the initiatives, each one incrementally strengthening awareness, capability, practice, and recognition for UDL at UniSC. In the slides that follow, we discuss the goal of each initiative and its outcomes and impacts. Blended learning strategies. A strategic document of 2 4-year strategies that details actions that will build the capability of staff to provide students with high-quality blended learning experiences. The goal, as this slide shows the blended learning strategy vision. The strategy was aligned to the academic plan to, quote, increase the provision of online, blended, and flexible learning offerings in order to meet the needs of diverse and distributed student cohorts, end quote. The UDL-related goals of the strategy were to support academics to engage with students regularly to discover and respond to their priorities, expectations, and experiences of technology, and to promote and support authentic learning and assessment experiences using simulation and visualization. Outcome and impacts. 2013 was a big year for learning and teaching, as the release of this strategy was bolstered by some significant investment in campus and online learning and teaching resources. One was the opening of a new collaborative teaching space, a tiered room with clusters of tables, individually wired with audiovisual equipment to promote active learning. The other was a MOOC, massive open online course, called Demystifying Blended Learning, which incorporated some of the principles of UDL. This strategy was revised and re-released in 2017. It engaged representatives from each area, called Blended Learning Leads, who disseminated knowledge, skills, and exemplars into the schools. Blackboard Plus. An initiative that introduced standards for course design supported by a revamped digital learning environment, Blackboard, at UniSC. The goal was to provide consistent, easily navigable online course learning experiences and equitable access to content, regardless of being on campus or online. This Blackboard course screenshot demonstrates this with consistent formatting and teacher presence with the photo of the coordinator. The outcome and impact. Consolidating course templates across the various schools and faculties to streamline the experience. Revamp of the user interface for consistency and responsiveness using workshops and resources to support academic uptake. Student focus groups indicated dramatic improvement in student course experience. One student reported that, quote, I no longer cry every time I open Blackboard. That's a great success. This initiative was introduced a guidance document, and a checklist of key elements to be considered when delivering learning in a blended mode, that is, a combination of face-to-face and online delivery. This was backed up with course templates and the development of a content layout tool with HTML styling elements for structuring and signposting of learning materials. These artifacts were pre-tested for universal design principles, including responsive web design, tabular order, and contrast. The consistency of these elements and iconography created universal conventions that were easier for teaching staff to replicate rather than build themselves. The course template contained prompts for teaching staff to create UDL supportive practices, such as an introductory video to build teacher presence and structural elements to organize the course materials in a systematic way. Curriculum design principles. The goals were to improve program and course design by using a principled approach that prompted academics to consider the scaffolding of learning outcomes throughout a program. These were the provision of learning-centered activities, materials, and assessment, the consideration of future needs and employability, and designing to comply with the standards of industry and regulatory bodies. The outcome and impact: to develop a set of 4 simple yet enduring principles. Constructively aligned, learning-centered, standards-based, career and future-focused, which are referenced and embedded into our curriculum design templates, support materials, and procedures. This principled approach to curriculum design supports UDL. The Learning Center principle ensures curriculum design considers diverse learners, their needs, and their context. The standards-based principle encourages compliance with standards, such as accessibility via WCAG 2.0 AA. The Technology-Enhanced Learning and Teaching Framework. This is a standards-based framework for academics to self or peer evaluate their courses to identify areas for improvement. The goal was to support academics pivoting to online learning during the pandemic with a tool to self or peer assess their course against online learning standards, aiming to bridge the gap between blended learning and fully online learning environments. This provided accreditation pathway to TELAS certification. The outcome and impact: adapted the Acolyte TELAS framework and created a standard checklist, which included UDL elements, such as giving students a variety of learning materials, activities, and assessment tasks. Here on the slide, we show examples of this, with a course offering a choice in assessment topics and using a podcast as an alternative for learning materials. It also provided academics a recognition pathway for TELAS certification. This is best used in self or peer assessment format. This was adopted for the Canvas implementation and later another project, Advancing the Student Course Experience, as a foundation document for course quality and recommendations for enhancing learning materials.
The Canvas Learning Management System and Ally toolset. The goal was to provide a contemporary, accessible, and highly usable feature-rich learning management system. The outcome and impact. Canvas was designed for web and mobile, so students can access their learning environment in different contexts or locations. It provides a variety of ways to engage with learning materials, collaborate with teachers and peers, and control and personalize settings such as their profile and notifications. Inbuilt accessibility tools such as the link validation tool remove barriers to student learning. Canvas also readily integrates with other educational technologies, providing multiple ways to engage and motivate students, and for students with multiple ways of expressing what they have learned. Shortly after going live with Canvas, UniSC commenced a pilot of the accessibility tool Ally. Ally is a toolkit with 3 components. One is the alternative formats, which allows students to download learning materials in various formats according to their needs and context. Secondly, Ally has the instructor feedback tool. This alerts teaching staff to accessibility issues as they create and edit Canvas pages. It also signals accessibility issues in documents such as Office 365. Finally, Ally has accessibility reporting, which allows staff to evaluate accessibility compliance at a course, school, or organisational level. A major impact of Ally is that it identifies accessibility issues, it suggests ways to resolve them, and that educates staff and saves them time.
Now we come to the Advancing the Student Course Experience Project, ACEP. The Learning Design team worked their way through all Canvas courses in the background to fine-tune the course design and layout to ensure a more consistent student experience. This took the pressure off academics who may not have the time or knowledge to style design their content accordingly. On the screen we have an example of a course welcome video. It's placed in a blue design panel and includes the video title and duration and uses a proper heading format. The goal is to streamline student content with consistent layout and navigation, particularly enhancing accessibility, building on previous Blackboard Plus example. The aim was to tidy up content for the current version of each course, which leads to ongoing benefits as courses are rolled over from one term to the next. Outcomes and impact. Baseline quality improvement of online learning materials. This was important to UniSC, as we learned from our Blackboard experience. We had been perpetuating accessibility issues by rolling over courses from one study period to another with the same issues. It all demonstrates what best practice looks like, with the intention that academics continue to develop materials following the standard.
As you can see from our story, each initiative has been woven into our practice, and we have matured as an organisation in our approaches to inclusive design. This organisational maturation is also evident in our revised UniSC strategic mission of enriching our regions, connecting with our communities, and creating opportunities for all. We also have 4 of our 7 values which support equity, diversity, and inclusion. They are: advocate for equitable access to education and knowledge, recognise and embrace diversity and inclusion, commit to fair and ethical behaviour, respect our people, our communities, and their potential. While we know our initiatives of the last decade and our strategic plan have us heading in the right direction, we also know our inclusive design story is far from over. To gauge how far we have come and where we go to next, we sought out a UDL maturity model, but we couldn't find one for higher education. So we created our own, based on generic organisational maturity theory. According to the maturity levels of our rubric, UniSC sits roughly in the integrated and strategic columns, with still some work to be done in both. So what are the next steps for us at UniSC? We're going to work more closely with students as partners and seek their feedback, develop a UDL micro-credential for both teaching and professional staff, recognise and promote good practice and develop exemplars, model UDL through our own professional development, improve our learning analytics, and continue to collaborate in UDL communities of practice such as this one.
We have now reached the conclusion of the recorded part of our presentation. Hopefully you have learned something about the woven threads of UDL into our curriculum tapestry and considered your organization's experience. In a moment we will join you in the live Q&A session. Be prepared to get interactive. There will be a short poll question for you to respond to.